Okay, I'm back here with part 2. Like I was saying at the end of part 1, honestly, I'm just going to sit back along with many others and see what unfolds. However, in closing, let me say this. If I was in Ian's shoes, and because what I wrote or was going to write, and if I knew it was going to cause even more dissension among the fan base with what I'm writing in the comic as a story arc, as crazy as this sounds, I would have made a proposal to the board of directors at Archie Comics, and even to those representing the Sega Corporation in general, that this story arc and even the anniversary issue of 225, basically with this story arc and the anniversary issue of 225, that we should do a separate alternate comic. A separate alternate comic based on the main comic book, with the same story and story arc. But in this alternate comic book, have it more focused on what many feel the comic book, the main one, should be focused on more so, and that is the game characters. Because knowing that my decision to turn one of the most popular female characters, if not the most popular female character in the comic, into a robotic slave for the main villain to use, that I would be why, or I forgot to correct this, that would be why I would make the suggestion to do an alternate comic of the main comic and story arc. Now, some of you may say that's a dumb idea, and some of you may agree that it probably would have been better than what we are seeing right now, because you would be giving everyone overall in the fan base what they want. So in other words, if I was Ian Flynn, if I was writing for the book like Ian Flynn was doing, knowing that I had to write something that would cause dissension, what I would do is I would go to the people in charge at Archie Comics, and even those representing the Sega Corporation, and saying, look, fans aren't going to like what I got planned for a certain character. Can we kind of do a backup? Can we kind of like, for this story arc going up for the next 20 issues, can we like do a backup comic, an alternate comic book on the main story? In other words, like would Sally put in the alternate comic book, put Amy in Sally's place. Make it similar, make the story almost the same, but have that alternate comic book feature the game characters more promptly, and let the main comic play out the way it should. That's to suggest, or play out the same way, but the way longtime fans of the main comic, original fans of the main comic, are used to it, and then use the alternate comic to say, okay, game fans, you want one with the game characters? Here you go. Same story, but it's mainly the game characters. That would be the suggestion I would make. And again, I know that may sound dumb, but some of you may also agree it probably would have been a better idea. Now, continuing on, and I quote, honestly though, to get back on topic here, as I was saying, everything that I mentioned above is the main reason we, as longtime fans, like things and characters the way they are, and for no matter how long, we cannot get used to seeing a character or a thing in a different form. Continuing on, as I get ready to close this out, and before I go, and I quote in this final paragraph, and before I go, I quote, and before I go, let me use one more example as to why, as longtime fans, we cannot get used to seeing Sally into robotic form. I forgot to correct that, but it's okay. We cannot get used to seeing Sally in robotic form. This example uses two of the most iconic animated characters, or in this case, animated couples, in the history of animation and even comic books. And that couple / characters are Mickey and Minnie Mouse. Now, the example I will use is by question. And that is, and I put these in bold italics, what would your reaction be if the head writer of any of the Mickey Mouse related comic books currently being published by Boom Studios, or whoever has the rights, decided to use a similar scenario in Story Arc as we have seen in the past few months with the Sonic comic book. What would your reaction be if Mickey had to go back in time to prevent Minnie from being wiped out from existence, only to return to the normal timeline, having resaved her from being wiped out, only in return to have her somehow do a similar situation like Sally did, and instead of being turned robotic, she was turned into, let's say, a female version of the Phantom Blot? What would your reaction be? Would you be happy, or would you be pissed off as hell? So basically what I'm saying, I continue on, Phil, let me continue. And I quote, well, if you're a longtime Disney fan, you probably wouldn't be happy, and you probably want the head writer removed from the comic, or even worse, fired from the comic book company. Now the reason I use this as a final example is so you can hopefully understand how the other 50% or even 60%, or as you look at it, less than that, feel right now about what's going on with Sally, because you wouldn't be used to seeing Minnie Mouse as a villainous female Phantom Blot, now would you? Now I know you're saying that won't ever happen because Disney won't allow it, which is quite probably true. But again, I'm just using this as an example of showing you how the fans that dislike what Ian has done to Sally feel. That is all, and quite honestly, that's all I'm going to say. So in other words, by using that last example, I'm basically stating is how would you, as a fan of Minnie Mouse, feel if she was put in a similar situation, Mickey had to go back in time and save her, had done just that, but in return had her, in the end up becoming a female Phantom Blot? How would you feel? Would you be mad? Would you be pissed off? Of course you would be. Because no matter how you look at it, you've always been a Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse fan. You wouldn't like seeing that. Now, again, as I mentioned in that paper, you're probably saying to yourself, Brian, it's never going to happen. Disney won't allow it. That's true. They probably won't. But what I'm saying as an example is, what would you do? What would your reaction be? Because I want you to kind of put yourself in the shoes of those that feel like, those that are against what has happened to the Sally character. Alright? Put yourself in their shoes. I mean, one person over at the Saturday Morning Sonic deal stated that when Barbara Gordon in DC Comics got paralyzed and was forced to go from being Batgirl to Oracle, a lot of fans didn't like the fact she wasn't going to be Batgirl anymore, or Batgirl anymore, or they didn't like the fact that she was just going to be just sitting down being this Oracle, but yet they got used to it. And now that they've rebooted things, she's back to being Batgirl, which a lot of people who wanted her to stay as Batgirl are happy about, and those that wanted her to stay as Oracle are not happy about. But you see, that's just an example that person gave me. But what I'm saying though, folks, is that's just an example of what's going on. But again, going back to what I was saying, asking that question, how would you feel if something like that happened to Minnie Mouse? I mean, anybody who's anybody is a Disney fan. You can't deny that. Anybody who's anybody is a Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse fan. You can't deny that. So how would you feel? Look, I'm just trying to point out, trying to make an example, try to at least put you in the shoes of those that don't like what's going on. So, comment down below, tell me what you guys think. Sorry this was in 2 parts, and I'll talk to y'all later.